There never seems to be an end to what we can learn from analyzing the causes and consequences of disruption, the challenges disruptions present, and from the resulting observations that lead to success in today's chaotic environment. In the 2015 spring edition of Strategy Plus Business magazine, the central article begins with the following statement: almost every company and industry will face major disruption in 2015. The article continues by stating the following: that the dynamics of reaching customers are totally changing, the technology shifts are speeding up demand for new products and innovation, and that efforts to maintain margins have become like walking a high wire balancing act, which is obviously scary and precarious. But when you look hard enough, these hurdles also represent opportunities. As difficult as today's disruptive environment is, on the future side of every challenge and problem, there is an opportunity for creativity and innovation that can lead to improvement in every organization's capabilities and advantages, or even to the creation and success of totally new businesses. This connection between disruption and innovation is central to my presentation today. If you followed the news media covering the 2015 World Economic Forum in Davos, Switzerland, you were exposed to what seemed like a consensus among the world's political and economic leaders that the world economy was stagnating. Yet if you kept listening, the news was not totally one-sided, although the positive side was seemingly less obvious. For example, self-made billionaire venture capitalist Jim Breyer, who has been a regular attendee for a number of years at the Davos World Economic Forum, rejected the argument that the world economy is stagnating. He said that from San Francisco to Silicon Valley, to San Diego and to Stockholm, South Africa, Singapore, and to Shanghai, new ideas are bubbling up. He went on to say that innovation is happening in centers of excellence around the world, faster and more often than ever before, which also implies that disruption is also occurring faster and more often than ever before as well. This is because, of course, that one person's innovation is often another person's disruption. Breyer suggested that this is happening largely because it's more inexpensive, that is, less costly, cheaper, than it was even a short time ago to develop a new product or service for both a local as well as a global audience. And there are ever more people and organizations being facilitated by digital technology with more ideas and entrepreneurial spirit to implement them. Most of our discussion of globalization and its effects up until quite recently has been focused on the activities of large multinational organizations. Because of that, our discussion of disruption and innovation has been focused on large organizations as well. For example, let's take a look at a large, successful multinational. Philips, the Dutch diversified global technology company, headquartered in Amsterdam and founded in 1891. Let's consider a couple of quotations from Philips executives, one made in the late 1970s and one made more recently in 2013. One quotation is, quote, "We typically lose out when a market commoditizes and we no longer differentiate, further aggravated by us being too slow or expensive," unquote. Second quotation is, "The matrix, a form of organizational structure designed for large, complex international companies, is too slow. We're in a very turbulent market with great potential, and we have far too many low-cost competitors. We need very short communication lines, quick decisions, alertness. We've got to be able to adapt fast," unquote. So, which quote do you think comes from the 1970s and which comes from 2013. The first statement, from current Chairman and CEO Franz von Houten, is the newer one. It appeared in a 2013 working paper from the MIT Center for Information Systems Research. The second, older statement, from a Philips product manager, initially appeared in a 1978 Management Today article and was quoted by Tom Peters in his first McKinsey quarterly piece, Beyond the Matrix Organization. The similarity of these statements from thoughtful leaders at a well-run, large, multinational company speaks to the difficulty of the global corporation's perennial challenge of how to capture scale across borders while differentiating products and services to suit the needs of local customers, all without letting complexity and disruption get in the way of speed and agility and taking advantage of internal innovation. If you examine the wide range of major ideas by great practitioners and thinkers to solve these challenges once and for all, you come away convinced that there's no silver bullet to the global company's challenges. Indeed, faith in one-dimensional solutions such as redrawing the organization chart, adopting someone's favorite management style, winning the war for local talent, re-engineering business processes, or moving global headquarters, has been argued to be dangerous and shown to be an unsuccessful strategy. The evidence shows that solutions need to combine changes across organizational structures, people, and processes, which is increasingly difficult in our discontinuous environments. Even though the absence of a simple solution may not be entirely satisfying and goes against the impulse to fix everything at once through a single big bang change to one of these elements, the focus on processes is taking on ever greater importance, not in place of people, products, and structure, but as a means to influence them. Thanks to digital technologies, the growing connectivity between knowledge workers and the more collaborative behavior this connectivity supports, we're experiencing a time of significant product and process innovation, both inside and across corporate boundaries. These process innovations are providing new ways to deal with the persistent difficulties confronted in the managing of complex global organizations and meeting the urgent need for greater efficiency in the face of rising global competition and increasing chaos. In addition, however, we are now realizing that creativity and innovation also can and does occur everywhere, not just in large multinationals from the major developed countries. Our attention is increasingly focusing on what are referred to as mini or micro multinational enterprises, or MNEs, and on the creativity and innovations being found in small and medium-sized organizations in both developing and developed economies. To illustrate this point, I recently came across the example of a small internet-based firm in Turkey called Yarn Paradise, now recognized as the world's biggest online yarn store. This is an example of innovation in small firms that is being repeated around the world on a scale never before experienced. Yarn Paradise was created by a young Turk named Ferit Göksen. After he received his MBA degree in 2001 in Istanbul, he and a business partner began selling different items on the eBay platform in Istanbul. In 2004, he combined his technology skills with his partner's traditional business skills, and together they founded a small business called GSC Textile, selling textile products online. After a few years, they wanted to focus more on a specific product. They noticed there was a market for yarn and decided to try selling it on eBay. Today, the business successfully utilizes the power and reach of the internet marketplace to sell yarn products worldwide. The company employs between 15 and 20 people, depending on the season. In 2014, a total of 98% of the company's sales were outside of Turkey, 35% to the United States, and the rest divided between European countries and Latin America and Asia. Ferret says that Yarn Paradise has sold to almost every country in the world, using companies like DHL and UPS to help with shipping and logistics. While most transactions are quick and seamless, there have been some problems in countries where online commerce is still new, such as Eastern Europe. The biggest issue for Yarn Paradise is presented by country customs and customs duties. Yet the point is that Yarn Paradise is a highly successful innovation that is filling customers' needs in a totally new way around the world, and of course has also been certainly disruptive to existing providers of yarn who use traditional marketing approaches. The point I am illustrating here is that the best antidote to stagnation is innovation, the creation of products, services, and processes that make life better, even if they disrupt existing ways of doing things. So let's go back to Davos. Innovation has been a major theme at Davos since the founding of the World Economic Forum in the 1970s. Innovation is seen as one of the 12 pillars of the World Economic Forum's annual Global Country Competitiveness Index. In 2014, the Forum ranked Finland first for innovation, followed by Switzerland, Israel, Japan, the US, Germany, Sweden, the Netherlands, Singapore, and Taiwan. Bloomberg, the publisher of Businessweek magazine, is also focused on the importance of innovation and publishes an annual ranking of countries based on an innovation index of 6 factors, including intensity of R&D, the number of patents and technology per capita, employment in R&D per capita, value added in manufacturing per capita, etc. The top countries in Bloomberg's ranking include South Korea, Japan, Germany, Finland, Israel, the US, Sweden, Singapore, France, and the UK. Evidently, innovation is not controlled by one or a few countries. Even the countries with the fastest growing use of technology are countries like Costa Rica and Kazakhstan. Breyer says innovation, in companies as well as in countries, cannot be built from the top down. For example, you can't just build some nice buildings with parks and recreation facilities, as China has done in many locales, yet still remains lagging in innovation, new patents, etc., and expect technology companies and creative and innovative people to just show up. True, governments can foster collaboration between universities and businesses, but ultimately innovations must trickle up from the bottom, or should that say explode up from the bottom, as opposed to trickle down from the top. Breyer says that he's had dozens of meetings over the years with business and government leaders from around the world who ask him how they can build their own Silicon Valleys. He tells them that it never works that way. There's a magic. There needs to be a love for entrepreneurship and creativity and experimentation that has to occur. So why doesn't this love of entrepreneurship occur more frequently? Is it because we're too often believers in ideologies or theories of economics or politics that preclude this kind of thinking? Or because we like the comfort of rules and regulations that we think are necessary for progress and safety, but get in the way of free-flowing entrepreneurship? Is it because we're uncomfortable with the kind of change with which entrepreneurs and creative people continually confront us? Or is it because we really don't know how to develop creativity or to manage innovative people and their innovations? And yet we do now experience this type of entrepreneurial innovation in highly unexpected places, such as we are now seeing with companies like Yarn Paradise in developing economies, such as Turkey. For these economies, innovation mostly means adopting and adapting existing ways of doing things. As Kim Wagner, a senior partner at Boston Consulting Group, indicates, in some corners of the world it requires a lot of creativity and innovation to just physically survive. And maybe for that reason, where entrepreneurship is allowed to thrive, people find innovations to improve their standards of living in creative and inexpensive ways. Maybe we need to support such creative people and their innovations. A favorite theme at Davos is what they refer to as frugal innovation in the developing world, which has produced innovations like very inexpensive laptops, water purification systems, small solar stoves and power generators, cell phones, refrigerators, eye cataract surgeries, arm and leg prosthetics, and lunch delivery services in large urban centers. In governments as well as in companies, it seems the best strategy management and governments can follow is to get out of the way and let innovators experiment and thrive. One of my colleagues, Jerry Valentine, who consults and coaches executives on information technology and innovation, makes the following points about how to get started to taking proactive steps within your organization to create a culture of innovation and invite out-of-the-box problem solving. Initiate productive conversations about innovation. Start people talking about it and discussing how they can make it happen. Clearly define innovation so teams stay focused on creating value by solving customer problems rather than becoming distracted by inventions. Communicate the value of pattern breaking so that important opportunities aren't missed. And be mindful of the fear of change that can hamper creative thinking. One organization that has learned these lessons well is Pixar Movie Studios, maker of 14 movies and 14 #1 box office hits, such as Toy Story, Ratatouille, and Monsters, Incorporated. During this long period of such unparalleled success, they've had to cope with continual discontinuities and failures. They've had to learn to deal in new ways with creativity and trial and error, all in a world of constantly new technologies. They've had to learn that taking risks to do things no movie studio had ever done before meant accepting that real risk meant the potential for real failures. And they often had to learn these lessons the hard way. Ed Catmull, president of Pixar, says there are only two clear tools that work almost all the time for effecting real change. The first is the presence of a visionary leader, someone who creates the vision for the future that attracts genius and creativity. But he says there just isn't a large number of those folks. The second is a company undergoing the right kind of crises, making mistakes or trying new things and learning from them. Everything in between is people trying to do their best, and that's where we all live most of the time. In another ITC module, I will explain why managers and their colleagues that master the skills and competencies of functional intelligence are most likely to take their organizations on a journey of success in our continuously discontinuous world.
Thank you for your presentation. Now let's go to Module 2 of this program.